Have you ever felt like you're putting your heart into something, yet people still seem to slip through your fingers like sand that won't stay still? You try, you care, and still, there's a quiet distance that grows between you and the ones you care about. It's as if, no matter how much effort you put in, you're still standing on the outside looking in. In Stoic philosophy, we're taught that it's not just what happens to us, but how we respond to it, that shapes our world. The Stoics believed that our actions and attitudes are like seeds we plant. Some will grow into strong, lasting bonds, while others, if neglected, will wither away unnoticed. Today, we're going to explore 7 behaviors that can silently build a wall around us, pushing people away without us even realizing it. These actions are like cracks in the foundation of a house, small at first, but over time, they can cause everything to crumble. By understanding these patterns and reflecting on our own actions, we can learn to strengthen our relationships and build connections that last. Let's dive into these common behaviors and see how we can change the course of our relationships, guided by the wisdom of the Stoics. Number 1. Over-complaining. Constant negativity can drain others. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to fall into a cycle of constant complaining? At first, it feels harmless, like you're just venting, releasing a bit of frustration. But what if I told you that this habit could be silently driving people away and holding you back from living a more fulfilling life? Over-complaining is like carrying a leaky bucket of negativity, spilling drops everywhere you go. While it might seem small at the moment, over time, it creates a flood that drowns relationships and opportunities. Let me paint a picture. Imagine sitting down with a friend, eager to share a moment of joy, but before you can even start, they launch into a litany of complaints. The weather is terrible, work is unbearable, even the food they ordered is disappointing. You listen patiently at first, but as the minutes drag on, you feel your energy draining, your excitement fading. By the end of the conversation, you've become an unwilling participant in their spiral of negativity. Now ask yourself, have you ever been that person? Stoic philosophy reminds us that while we cannot control external events, we can control our responses to them. Complaining is often a reaction to things outside our control. The traffic that made us late, the weather that ruined our plans, or the colleague who didn't meet expectations. While these frustrations are valid, dwelling on them achieves nothing. Worse, it anchors us to a state of helplessness, reinforcing a negative cycle. So how do we break free from this habit? The first step is awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts and conversations. Are you quick to point out what's wrong, or do you make an effort to see what's right? Gratitude is a powerful antidote to negativity. Even in difficult situations, finding something to appreciate, no matter how small, can shift your mindset. Instead of complaining about a long line at the grocery store, you could take a moment to enjoy the music playing or the chance to slow down for a moment. Another strategy is what I like to call the reframe and redirect method. Let's say you're frustrated about a mistake at work. Instead of venting endlessly about how unfair it feels, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I prevent it from happening again? This turns a negative moment into a constructive one, helping you grow rather than stagnate. Lastly, remember that conversations should be a two-way street. If you notice yourself dominating discussions with complaints, take a step back and ask about the other person's day. Actively listening and engaging with their joys and challenges creates a balance that deepens connections. Over-complaining might seem trivial, but its effects ripple outwards, impacting your relationships and emotional well-being. The Stoics teach us to focus our energy on what we can change and let go of what we cannot. By shifting from complaints to gratitude, from frustration to action, you not only improve your own outlook, but also become a source of positivity for those around you. So, The next time you catch yourself about to complain, pause and ask, is this bringing value to my life or others? With practice, you can turn the habit of complaining into a habit of appreciating, and in doing so, you'll find people are drawn to your light instead of pushed away by your storm. Number 2, being overly critical. Criticizing too much without offering solutions pushes people away. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where every word you speak is met with criticism and no one ever offers a solution? It might feel like you're just being honest or helping others improve, but let me tell you a harsh truth. Constant criticism without offering solutions is quietly driving people away. You might think you're pointing out what's wrong to help, but in reality, you're just pushing others into a corner, leaving them feeling worthless and defeated. Think about it. Criticism without direction is like a map with no destination. It might highlight the roadblocks, but it doesn't show you how to get around them. When you criticize without offering a way forward, you don't give the person a chance to grow. You simply make them feel stuck, unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's the power of unchecked criticism. It slowly erodes confidence, trust, and even your relationship with the person. But the damage isn't just emotional. The constant negativity wears down self-esteem and chips away at the energy of both parties. Imagine a colleague who is constantly pointing out your flaws, telling you what you're doing wrong, but never offering constructive advice. Over time, this drains your spirit, creating a toxic atmosphere that no one wants to be part of. You start avoiding that person, and even when you have to interact, you find it harder to connect or feel motivated. The signs of emotional exhaustion become clear. The stress starts to show in your posture, your energy levels, and even in the way you speak to others. Stoic philosophy provides a powerful remedy for this habit. The Stoics taught that we should focus on what we can control and approach challenges with wisdom and understanding. Instead of simply pointing out what's wrong, we should focus on solutions that guide others toward improvement. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." The key here isn't just recognizing the flaws in others, it's about offering guidance and understanding to help them improve. So how do you stop the cycle of criticism without solutions and start fostering growth instead? Here are a few steps to turn the tide. Start with empathy. Before pointing out what's wrong, consider how the other person might feel. Lead with kindness and understanding. Empathy allows you to provide criticism in a way that motivates instead of demoralizing. Offer solutions, not just problems. If you're identifying an issue, pair it with a solution. Instead of saying, "You always mess this up," try, "I've noticed this happens often, but here's an idea that could make it easier next time." Choose your battles. Not everything needs correction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to accept others as they are and let minor issues slide. Focus your energy on the areas that truly need attention. Encourage growth. Criticism should lead to improvement, not discouragement. When you give feedback, aim to help the person grow. Ask them how they would approach the problem and provide guidance on how they can make changes. Criticism can be an invaluable tool for growth, but only if it's delivered with care and a focus on solutions. Without that, it becomes a weapon that pushes people away instead of helping them move forward. Life is about helping others rise, not making them feel small. So, the next time you feel the urge to criticize, pause and ask yourself, am I building someone up or tearing them down? Choose to offer solutions and watch how your relationships flourish. If you've watched the video this far, make sure to comment "Thank God" to let us know you're with us. Number 3, not owning your mistakes. Failing to admit when you're wrong or shifting blame onto others damages trust and respect. Have you ever been in a situation where someone refuses to own up to their mistakes? Instead of admitting they were wrong, they shift the blame onto others, leaving you frustrated and questioning their integrity. Failing to own your mistakes doesn't just affect the person you've wronged, it chips away at the trust and respect others have for you. Over time, this behavior erodes relationships and creates an environment of dishonesty. Imagine this. You're working on a team project and something goes wrong. The deadline is missed and the outcome isn't what was expected. When it's time to address the issue, one of your teammates refuses to take responsibility. Instead, they point fingers at others, claiming it was their fault. You might feel betrayed because not only did they not own up to their role, but they also made the situation worse by deflecting the blame. The damage goes beyond the mistake itself. It breaks down trust and creates tension in the team. Now, you're left questioning whether you can count on that person again in the future. The truth is, not owning your mistakes is like building a house on sand. It might look fine for a while, but eventually, the foundation crumbles. Every time you fail to take responsibility for your actions, you create cracks in the trust and respect others have for you. Those cracks get bigger with each instance of shifting blame, until one day, the relationship becomes too fragile to repair. Stoic philosophy teaches us to embrace accountability. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, integrity isn't about making excuses. It's about taking ownership of our actions. Admitting when you're wrong isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It shows that you're not afraid to face the consequences of your actions and that you're committed to learning and growing from them. So, how do we start owning our mistakes and rebuilding the trust that's been damaged? First, embrace humility. When you're wrong, admit it openly. Acknowledge the mistake without hesitation or excuses. This simple act not only shows maturity, but also earns you respect from those around you. It's a reminder that we all make mistakes, and owning them is what sets us apart. Second, apologize sincerely. An apology isn't just about saying, "I'm sorry." It's about acknowledging the impact of your actions and expressing a desire to make things right. A heartfelt apology can heal wounds and rebuild the trust that's been broken. Lastly, learn from your mistakes. After admitting fault, take steps to ensure you don't make the same error again. This shows that you're committed to personal growth and that you value the relationships you've built. Not owning your mistakes may seem like a way to avoid discomfort, but in reality, it only creates more problems. When you take responsibility for your actions, you strengthen your integrity and build trust with others. So the next time you make a mistake, instead of deflecting or blaming others, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And how can I make things right? Number 4, judging or gossiping about others. Talking behind others' backs or being judgmental creates a toxic environment that others want to avoid. Have you ever been part of a conversation where someone starts gossiping about another person, or worse, judging them without knowing the full story? It can feel uncomfortable, right? You might even find yourself looking for a way to exit the conversation, sensing the toxicity in the air. Judging or gossiping about others doesn't just create drama. It cultivates a toxic environment that drives people away. Imagine this. You're at work and a colleague makes a harmless mistake. Instead of offering help or understanding, someone starts gossiping about their mistake, criticizing them behind their back. It may seem like a harmless chat at first, but over time, these small acts of judgment chip away at the respect and trust among co-workers. Gossip is like a poison that spreads quietly but can leave a lasting impact. It turns people against each other, fuels unnecessary conflict, and creates an atmosphere of fear and distrust. When we talk behind someone's back, we're not just damaging their reputation, we're also damaging our own integrity. Gossip is a betrayal of the trust others place in us. It's like spreading rumors about a garden. It doesn't just hurt the plants, it damages the soil where trust and respect grow. Once you become known as someone who gossips or judges others harshly, people start to avoid you, not just because they fear being the next target, but because they can no longer trust you with their own vulnerabilities. Stoic philosophy offers wisdom on this topic. The Stoics believed that we should focus on improving ourselves, not tearing others down. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Instead of focusing on the flaws of others, we should focus on our own actions and reactions. Judging or gossiping is a reaction to insecurity or the need to feel superior, but the Stoics remind us that true wisdom lies in building others up, not tearing them down. So how do we stop the cycle of judgment and gossip? First, practice empathy. Instead of rushing to judge someone, take a moment to understand their situation. We all have struggles and make mistakes. Remembering this can help you see others with more compassion. Try putting yourself in their shoes, and you might just discover that you're more alike than you realize. Second, choose your words carefully. If you have something to say about someone, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it helpful? If the answer is no, then keep it to yourself. Words are powerful, and once spoken, they can't be taken back. Speaking kindly and thoughtfully creates an atmosphere where trust can grow. Lastly, be a positive force. If you see someone struggling, don't talk about them behind their back. Help them, offer advice, or simply listen. Positive communication can turn a negative situation into an opportunity for growth, both for you and for others. Judging and gossiping may feel like an easy way to bond or feel superior, but it's ultimately a toxic trap. It creates walls between people, while kindness and empathy build bridges. So the next time you're in a conversation and the temptation to gossip or judge arises, ask yourself, what would happen if I chose empathy over judgment and understanding over gossip? You'll find that by lifting others up, you lift yourself up too. Number 5, not respecting boundaries. Have you ever felt like someone is pushing you into a corner, not with force, but with their constant need to cross your boundaries? It starts innocently, maybe a friendly touch, an unsolicited piece of advice, or a question that feels a little too personal. But here's the truth, not respecting boundaries is like slowly eroding the walls of your comfort zone, leaving you exposed and vulnerable, unable to protect your own space. Think of your personal space as a garden. You've carefully tended to it, planted seeds of trust, and built walls around it to keep it flourishing. Now imagine someone constantly stepping into that garden, trampling over your flowers, picking the fruits before they're ripe, or forcing you to share more than you're ready to give. Over time, that once beautiful garden becomes a barren wasteland of frustration and discomfort. Not respecting boundaries doesn't just damage relationships, it creates a storm where peace once stood. When you push too far, you are not offering help. You are planting seeds of resentment. People feel the storm brewing, and instead of feeling safe and connected, they begin to distance themselves, retreating to protect their own gardens. Stoic philosophy teaches us to recognize where our influence ends and where others' personal space begins. Marcus Aurelius said, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." In other words, focus on your own actions and respect the invisible lines that others draw. By doing so, you not only maintain peace within yourself, but you also allow others to flourish in their own space. So, how do we stop overstepping and start respecting boundaries? First, imagine being a guest in someone's home. You wouldn't start rearranging their furniture or demanding that they share their private life with you. You'd listen to their cues, respect their comfort, and ask if they need anything. Similarly, when you engage with others, pay attention to their signals. If they pull back or seem uncomfortable, don't push. Instead, take a step back and recognize that you're in someone else's space, and you must honor their boundaries just as you would your own. Second, tune into the silence between words. Often people's discomfort is not directly stated, but is felt in the quiet moments. If you find yourself talking too much or sharing things they haven't asked for, pause. Listen to the gaps in the conversation and take notice of the body language that tells you when you've crossed a line. Like a ship that knows when to stop before hitting the rocks. Learn when to ease back before you reach the point of no return. Lastly, become the protector of others' gardens. Respect is a two-way street. Just as you want your space honored, you must offer the same courtesy in return. When someone expresses their boundaries, don't treat it as an obstacle, but as a sacred ground to be respected. It's a simple yet powerful way to show that you value their peace and autonomy. In the end, not respecting boundaries isn't just about annoying habits or miscommunication. It's like hammering away at the fragile threads that hold relationships together. But when you choose to honor boundaries, you build bridges instead of walls. Relationships flourish like a well-tended garden, vibrant and strong, with enough room for everyone to grow. So the next time you're interacting with someone, take a moment to ask yourself, am I respecting their garden, or am I trampling over their peace? Choosing to respect boundaries isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about creating a space where trust and respect can grow. Number 6, avoiding conflict resolution. Ignoring problems instead of solving them makes things worse. Have you ever ignored a problem, thinking it would just go away on its own? At first, it might seem easier to avoid conflict. After all, who wants to deal with uncomfortable conversations? But here's the truth. Ignoring problems instead of resolving them is like sweeping dust under the rug. It might look clean on the surface, but underneath, the mess is piling up, ready to trip you up when you least expect it. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you come across a small tree blocking your path. At first, it seems like a minor obstacle, something you can easily step around. But as time goes on, the tree gets bigger, its roots spreading deeper, and what was once a small hurdle becomes a towering wall you can no longer ignore. Conflict is like that tree. It starts small, but when you avoid it, it grows into something much more difficult to handle. The danger of avoiding conflict is that it doesn't make the issue disappear, it just lets it fester. When you choose not to address problems, resentment builds up. You might tell yourself, it's not a big deal, I'll let it slide. But over time, those unresolved issues create emotional distance. What was once a small disagreement turns into a source of tension that lingers in the background, affecting everything from communication to trust. In relationships, whether personal or professional, ignoring problems instead of solving them slowly chips away at the foundation, leaving you with a fragile connection that could easily crumble. Stoic philosophy teaches us to face challenges head-on, not avoid them. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the problems you avoid are the ones that will ultimately shape your growth. Conflict isn't something to be feared or ignored. It's an opportunity to strengthen relationships, improve communication, and grow together. By avoiding it, you're missing out on the chance to improve yourself and your relationships. So how do we stop avoiding conflict and start resolving issues in a healthy, productive way? First, acknowledge the issue. Pretending a problem doesn't exist only makes it worse. Instead, face it directly, even if it feels uncomfortable. This doesn't mean rushing in with accusations or anger, but simply acknowledging the problem and accepting that it needs to be addressed. Second, communicate openly and calmly. Conflict resolution isn't about winning or proving a point. It's about finding common ground. Approach the situation with empathy, understanding that the other person's perspective is just as valid as yours. Ask questions, listen actively, and seek to understand, not just to respond. Third, focus on solutions, not blame. Instead of getting stuck in what went wrong, focus on what can be done to make things better. Ask yourself, how can we resolve this together? By shifting the focus from the problem to the solution, you can work collaboratively to fix things and move forward. Avoiding conflict resolution may feel like an easy way out, but in the long run, it makes everything harder. By facing problems head-on, you not only solve the immediate issue, but also build stronger, more resilient relationships. Conflict is not the enemy. Avoidance is. The next time a problem arises, remember that addressing it is the only way to clear the path and keep moving forward. Number 7, being unreliable, failing to follow through on promises causes frustration. Have you ever had someone promise you something only to have them back out at the last minute? It's frustrating, right? That sense of disappointment when someone you trust doesn't follow through can leave you questioning their reliability. Being unreliable doesn't just cause frustration in the moment, it erodes trust and damages relationships over time. Imagine you're relying on someone to meet you at an important event. You've made plans, prepared yourself, and are looking forward to their support. But when the time comes, they don't show up. Maybe they didn't communicate or just didn't follow through on their promise. The immediate frustration is obvious, but the lingering feeling of being let down stays with you, clouding your trust in them moving forward. The thing about reliability is that it's like a thread woven into the fabric of every relationship. Every time someone follows through on their word, that thread gets a little stronger. But when they don't, it unravels a little more. Over time, these small instances of broken promises accumulate, creating an emotional distance between you and the other person. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our actions speak louder than our words. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, it's not enough to simply promise to be reliable. It's about demonstrating it through our actions. When we fail to follow through, we're not just disappointing others. We're failing to live up to our own principles. So how do we avoid being unreliable and start building a reputation of trustworthiness? First, be mindful of what you commit to. Before making a promise, consider whether you can truly deliver. It's better to say no up front than to commit to something you can't follow through on. Overcommitting leads to stress and eventual failure to meet expectations. Second, communicate if something changes. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes circumstances change. If you can't meet a commitment, let the other person know as soon as possible. A quick message explaining the situation shows respect for their time and understanding that your actions have consequences. Lastly, take responsibility. If you've made a promise and couldn't keep it, own up to it. Apologize sincerely and take steps to make it right. This shows integrity and accountability, traits that rebuild trust over time. Being unreliable may seem like a small mistake, but it can lead to frustration, disappointment, and eventually lost connections. The next time you make a promise, remember that following through isn't just about meeting expectations. It's about showing that you value the relationship and are committed to the trust that has been placed in you. If any of the points resonated with you, be sure to comment, "Thank God I learned it," to share your thoughts and let us know how it connected.